welcome back to the channel. It has been a little while. It's been actually quite a long time since I've posted anything to the channel. Apologies for that, life gets in the way, what can I say? But I had cause to rekindle the YouTube channel and get my videography mojo back, if you like, my photography mojo back. And it's centered around a new camera purchase, as it always sort of tends to do. Let me go back a step. I was an early adopter of the Nikon Z7. I bought it basically when it was released in September 2018. It was my first foray into mirrorless and I absolutely loved it. I took that camera absolutely everywhere with me. It's been to Europe, to Africa, to Asia, to everywhere from the South Gobi Desert to the absolutely blistering heat of northern Ghana and just about everywhere in between. And I must admit, I listened, I watched a lot of YouTube videos and I heard a lot of the criticism, if you like, of the autofocus system, but I resisted. I resisted the temptation to jump on that bandwagon. For me, frankly, it was plenty. It did exactly what I needed to do, and I was frankly skeptical of a lot of those videos. As time wore on, as the Z6 II, Z7 II, Z6 III came out, Z9, Z8, I then started to wonder whether it was time to give another camera system a go, another camera product a go in the Nikon lineup, just to compare. Was I just being pig-headed about my Z7? Is it sufficient? Or actually, was I just trying to do the old, I've spent a lot of money on a camera and I just do not believe that a new camera is going to be any better. So I hung on for 6 years essentially. I let the Z9 go through to the keeper, but when I saw the Z8, same flagship specs in a smaller body, albeit slightly bigger than the Z7, I thought, okay, this is my chance to give it a go and see whether or not it was time to get rid of the Z7 and upgrade to the Z8, the new dual processing system, faster focus, so they say. So what is the best way to do that? Well, quite simply, I've got a Z8, I've got a Z7, and I'm going to take them out into the field. And to be completely frank, I really want the Z7 to be as good or nearly as good as the Z8. I really want it to be the one that I can use. I don't need a Z8 if I can get through this test. I will admit this, there have been moments over the last 6 years where autofocus has failed me. And I've wondered at times, is that just the difficulty of shooting particular sports or people or wildlife or whatever it is? Is that just how cameras are? Or is the YouTube world right in that the Canon and the Sony have overtaken Nikon? So what I'm gonna do in today's video, it's not gonna be a particularly long one. I have both cameras. I'm gonna do some shooting tests. I'm gonna see if I can see any perceptible difference, same megapixels. Yep, okay, different sensor in both cameras, but let's see if there's any perceptible difference in a real life shooting situation. Then I'm going to take the Z8 and put it in what I consider to be one of the most difficult autofocus situations, and that is trying to photograph my dog running around at crazy time. And I'm gonna see how it plays out. And then I'm gonna give you an unbiased opinion. And as I said, frankly, I hope the Z7, at the end of this video, I can say to you, save your money, buy some glass, keep the Z7. I'm a little worried. Let's get on with the test. So the first thing I'm gonna do, we're gonna jump straight here into Lightroom, and I'm gonna select a couple of images that I've taken with the Z7 and the Z8, basically the same conditions, same lighting conditions, same setup. So we'll have a look over here. On the left we have the Nikon Z7 with the 24-70 at f2.8. On the right, the Z8, same lens, same subject, f2.8. Now, I've noticed, actually there's one thing I noticed straight off the bat in these two images is that actually there are some color differences, which is quite bizarre. I've actually had to adjust The white balance in the Z8, as you can see, I've raised the color temperature, because if I just back that out, you'll see, and these cameras, I might say, I've double checked the settings, both on auto white balance 0. I've now subsequently changed that on the Z8 to make it white balance 2, which is keep warm colors. But I've just tried to take color out of the equation by adjusting the color on the Z8 image to match the Z7. Now, if we go in and just check sharpness, to go in a bit closer, I don't know if you can see that with the compression, but it is perceptibly clearer, sharper on the 8 compared to the 7. As you can see, interesting. I didn't expect that, to be honest. Autofocus, yeah, I kind of was expecting some differences. Let's jump into the next image. I use different lenses, as you'll see. Let's get rid of those. Okay, let's go to the next image here. 7 on the right, this time 8 on the left. This is with the Sigma adapted, the 105 1.4 adapted with the FTZ, the version 1 FTZ, I should mention. And let's have a look. Okay, let's get into the Z8. Remember the adapted lens. Come on. Same settings. It's bizarre. 1 to 80 per second. I probably could have, maybe that's hand shutter, I don't know, but same issues, different photos. And this last image here, again, 14 to 24, 2.8, Z8 on the right, 14, 24, 2.4 on the left. There is a slight ISO difference here, but again, you see the color difference, a lot warmer with the Z7, but let's go right in again. Just sharper, eyeball sharper. You can see the detail, and there's no processing on these images, I might add. Eyelashes, definitely sharper. I didn't expect, to be honest, of all the things I expected in terms of autofocus, I didn't expect that. So what that tells me is that the processor is I would say, based on my very extensive test of a few images, I would say the processor on the Z8 is slightly better. Now, Z7, 6 years old, maybe that's got something to do with it, I don't know. Firmware, I mean, I guess something, based solely on the couple of images I've put up there, to me, it's fairly clear there is a difference. Clear winner, same winner each time. That's a surprise, to be completely honest. The color difference was also a surprise. What I'm going to have to do, I think, is go back into the Z8 and change the white balance from A0 to A2. A2 keeps warmer colors. Here's another test image on the screen, and there's no difference in these two images. They're at, this one is the Z8 ISO 160. Nice and sharp. Similar amount of sharpness. You'll see that on the Z7 it's not as sharp, but I noticed that when taking this image, the Z7 actually hunted for a different focal point. The focal point was down here. And I suppose what I'd say is that I noticed on the Z8, just the Z8 seemed a lot more confident picking a focal point and staying with it. Z7 hunted. I actually had the same focal point locked in both images, well, effectively locked in both images using 3D tracking, but at the last minute the Z7 jumped, and you can see it's focused down elsewhere. I just noticed that the 8 locked on eye every time, 7 jumped around. So there is both a practical difference in terms of image quality from those couple of images I showed you. There's a practical difference in terms of how easy or difficult it was to shoot subjects. Z8 just locked on quicker, faster, got it every time. 7 hunted around a little bit. So that's a perception point, but it played out in real life. So I think on the basis of just that, couple of little images, 7, not as good as 8, probably no surprise. So what I thought I'd do is to check the autofocus, the famous autofocus on the Nikon Z series. Is it better on the Z8 compared to the Z7? Well, I took the Z8, I put it in autofocus full-time mode, 4K, 24 frames a second, and I chose a subject incredibly difficult to capture, and that is my dog going bananas in the backyard. So let's have a look at that and see how it did. I'm shooting this with the 24-70. I'm on at 2.8. And she's off. Now, a lot of the issues I'm having here is because actually capturing the dog in the center of the frame is incredibly difficult. It's relatively sharp considering how quickly the dog is moving around the frame. And I must say, in camera, the green box is basically on the dog at all times. You can see there, pretty good considering how fast we're going, 24 frames a second, remember, and how fast the dogs move around the grass. And on a still, I mean, looks great. I could never have done this with my Z7, I can tell you that. This was easy to capture the dog in focus most of the time, nearly all of the time, as you can see from a couple of those stills. If you're grabbing a still from a moving object, it's always going to look a bit challenging, but it did a magnificent job. I've got to say, I didn't do that test with the Z7 because I know it would have failed. It would have been an absolute disaster. The Z8 was as good as I think you could possibly get in that scenario with an object that's running in and out of the screen. And I used full 3D tracking, eye auto detect, animal auto detect. So it worked exactly as described on the manual. So having done all that, where are we? I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed because having done those couple of tests, it's shown me that after 6 years of development and with the stacked sensor, all of that, the Z8 is, drumroll, very great surprise, a better camera than the Z7. It is miles different in terms of autofocus based on my tests, having shot it for a couple of days. A couple of surprises, it is sharper. Same lenses, same scenario, same shutter speeds, sharper. Now someone might say, okay, you might have moved during one photo or the other, but it did it time and time again. So I don't accept necessarily that. I think that the problems I've had over the years with the Z7, missing eye or focusing on an eyelash or whatever it is, whatever they've done with the Z8 for my limited shooting thus far, they've fixed that, which is absolutely phenomenal. As I mentioned, the surprise there was the color difference. I'm going to have to change to A2, keep warmer colors with the auto white balance. Not a huge one, but definitely different. So that shows me that the sensors are different. They have actually put some brain power into what they've got in the Z8, and it is better. There is no other way to describe it. It's a better camera. Is it worth the money? Well, Black Friday sales, end of year sales, you can pick it up. They're actually doing some phenomenal sales at the moment. Maybe it is for you. For me, 6 years after having the Z7, the choice is pretty clear. I'm really have been frustrated with the autofocus on the Z7. Z8 is streets better. For me, it's a yes for the upgrade, which I'm going to dive into. And of course, personal preference, Z7's amazing. Stills camera, just not as good as the Z8. So on that unbelievable bombshell, the newer, more expensive camera being better, apologies for that. But I think you've seen from the somewhat scientific nature of my testing, at least in the real world, you can see that it is better, no doubt about it. And I think if you picked it up and put them side by side like I have, you'll find the same thing. Thank you for tuning into this video. If you did like it, please hit me up in the comments down below, give me a like and a subscribe. I'm back to making videos, which is really great, so hopefully I'll get some more up there pretty soon. In the meantime, enjoy your shooting and see you soon.